entertainment, sports, news, and opinion now. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Situation and the pullout of Iraq has seen the situation that we have now with the political vacuum and ISIS taking over, and the way that you handled the end of the Libya conflict and lack of political engagement, kind of now you see a lot of violence and instability, and now you look at the situation in the Israeli-Palestinian after that some would attribute to the breakdown of the talks. I mean, what do you say to respond to critics that say the kind of region and turmoil that we're seeing right now is a direct result of U.S. foreign policy failures?
I would refute that completely. The United States has never been more engaged in more places in the world than it is today.
Okay. Welcome back to the show, folks. We're joined now by David Horowitz, founder, president of the David Horowitz Freedom Center, and editor of FrontPage Magazine, author of The Black Book of the American Left. Hello, David.
Hey, Steve. America's never been run by more compulsive liars than it is now. It's just unbelievable what comes out of the White House and its spokespeople these days.
Well, let me start with the White House specifically. How is it possible, and I've asked this question now for days and weeks and maybe a month, how is it possible that from the beginning, this unity government, this administration announced they're going to continue to support the unity government of the Palestinian Authority and Hamas, not only financially but otherwise, and even after Hamas has been bombing indiscriminately civilians in Israel and rejected a ceasefire, this government still has no problem, apparently, with the unity government, including Hamas.
Well, look, it's because this president is black and nobody wants to touch him is one of the problems. And then the Democratic Party has gone over, to the dark side is the other problem. Hamas is a Nazi, or it's worse than the Nazis. Hitler hid the final solution. That is, he hid his plan to exterminate the Jews. Hamas has it in its charter. And every day you hear them shouting it from the rooftops. We want to kill all the Jews. We want to push them into the sea. We want to destroy the state of Israel. We don't want to live next to them. They should be dead. And you have all these Palestinian voters and all these Gaza voters who voted for them. They were elected in a democratic election. You have a whole nation of Nazis, and you have the president of the United States supporting them with taxpayer money. We had a 16-year-old American child from Brooklyn brutally murdered, and the president said, no, nothing. We bring Americans home. No, we don't, not if they're Jews. This is an anti-Semitic, anti-American president. That's the big problem. And let me just say something about what's caused all this chaos in the Middle East. It started with the Democrats' betrayal of the war in Iraq. Of course, there were WMDs. ISIS found the WMDs, and there was a whole week of news stories about this chemical weapons storage factory with nobody saying, duh, I guess Cheney and Bush and Rumsfeld were 100% right. There were WMDs. It was the Democrats who turned against the war because there was an election and an anti-war candidate named Howard Dean was winning the presidential primary. And they sabotaged the American war effort. There's never been a greater betrayal of America than what the Democrats did during the Iraq war. We should have pursued the weapons of mass destruction and Saddam's generals into Syria. Where do you think Syria got the chemical weapons from? But we couldn't do that, or Bush couldn't do that, because there was a full-scale war in America against the Bush administration conducted by the Democratic Party and by the New York Times and the Washington Post and all the usual suspects. Then Obama, when he takes over, not only does he telegraph to the world that he wants to lose both wars, he's going to pull out of Iraq, he's not going to leave an American presence there, he's going to pull out of Afghanistan, but he intervenes illegally and without consultation with anyone into Libya and creates chaos in that country. Gaddafi was a bad man but he was opposed to al-Qaeda, so al-Qaeda now rules Libya. Then he turns around and supports the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, the spawner of al-Qaeda, the Muslim Brotherhood. Whatever you think about Barack Obama, his acts show that he's on the other side of these wars.
All right, let's talk, David, about the reaction to what's going on in Israel. You know, Stephen Hawking is apparently supporting the Palestinians. You have actors, entertainers like Rihanna and basketball players, but you have what's worse is you have on the streets and in front of the synagogues in Paris and Germany, you have vehement, virulent anti-Semitism rearing its ugly head.
All the Jew haters of the world have come out of the woodwork. You have Jon Stewart calling Hamas, this Nazi organization whose purpose is to exterminate the Jews. That's its purpose. You have Jon Stewart calling them freedom fighters. It's the total degeneration of the left and so-called, there are no liberals. I mean, you know, Republicans are liberal compared to these, but these Democrats are not liberal, they're leftists. And they don't seem to be able to make any moral distinctions between Nazis and people who are their targets. I mean, Israel is a remarkable country. It's democratic, it's tolerant, and yet there's this war to destroy it, led by Hamas, but supported by progressives everywhere. I'm embarrassed. You know, when I was on the left, I mean, I try to think back of my mentality then. I can't imagine supporting Hamas or the Palestinians. This is an evil people. And they've demonstrated it year after year. They don't care about a state for themselves. They don't. All they care about is killing Jews.
Well, of course, and Hamas has also said that their goal is to kill Jews wherever they are around the world. It kind of, you know, the guise of being anti-Zionist and claiming we're not against Jews, we're not anti-Semitic, we're anti-Zionist. But when you have Hamas, with their, as you pointed out, with their charter, not only to kill Israel, destroy Israel, but to kill Jews wherever they are, and then you have these people coming out and supporting Hamas, they can't claim to be just anti-Israel anymore.
No, but look, that was always a lie. You know, if the only black state in the world were under siege by 300 million neighbors that wanted to exterminate them, you think people would make a distinction between the black liberation movement and you know, and racism? Of course they wouldn't.
No, of course not. Let me ask you, David. David, the media coverage of this, I mean, I've seen over and over again. So Erin Burnett and others, Ronan Farrow, and, you know, talking about the killing of civilians. These networks keep a scorecard. You could almost see some kind of satisfaction in all their faces when the first Israeli was actually killed in this conflict, because finally there was a death in Israel. But this, you know, disproportionate response, and Israel's stronger, and it's insane and obscene at the same time.
It's a little country that's a target of rockets supplied, you know, by Iran, China, whatever. Come on, these people are morally defective. And of course, this happens every time there's a war between these evil Palestinians who are absolutely worse than the Nazis, who have two terrorist governments, who now have a terrorist unity government, who make no secret about their desire to kill the Jews. They have these little kids holding up 3 fingers to celebrate the murder of the 3 Jewish children. They're brought up to hate Jews. They're taught that in the schools. It's the only cause that the Palestinians have is the murder of the Jews. And that Erin Burnett and all these idiot, you know, I shouldn't actually, calling them idiots is in a way, you know, too soft on them. This is a very simple moral choice, and they've made the wrong one.
All right, David, always good to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much. We'll speak to you soon.
Steve. I think this channel is great. I watch it all the time.
Thank you. Appreciate that. David Horowitz, ladies and gentlemen, from the David Horowitz Freedom Center, and editor of FrontPage Magazine. And didn't ask him if he's watching on Direct TV 349 or Dish 223 or on NewsmaxTV.com or on his iPhone or on Roku or wherever. Or it doesn't have to be an iPhone, any smartphone. But I'm glad he likes the Newsmax TV channel. We're always glad to hear about that. All right, folks, it is an outrage, and what are you going to do? When Israel's involved, there's a whole other standard for Israel, and I guess a lesser standard for the terrorists who are sworn to Israel's destruction and just revel in the murdering of innocent civilians on purpose. All right, we're coming back. Don't miss it. More. Give Me 5 is next.